Welcome to Exploring Quality in Family Childcare Wordplay. My name is Grace Eilers. I'm the Family Childcare Content Specialist with Satellite, and I will let our co-presenter introduce herself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ashley Harrell, and I'm an ECE champion, all things early education. I am here for. Excited to be with you all today.
Thank you, Ashley. We are also going to hear from Tammy Pineda, the Youth Services Manager at the Madison Public Library, and that will be through the forum of a video interview. So where does wordplay show up in Satellite's accreditation standards? It states that the educator ensures that children hear language around them and engage in a wide range of early language and literacy experiences, but more specifically, that the educator plays with words and language with infants, toddlers, and preschoolers. So we are going to be breaking down the components of language that we play with when we play with words. Ashley and Tammy are both going to speak to how you can do this with the infants, toddlers, and preschoolers, since you are coming today with a mixed age group. This also shows up in the Wisconsin Model Early Learning Standards, which is a Wisconsin-based developmental framework for early learning programs. They have an entire section that is dedicated to the objective of wordplay, or the fact that children can detect, manipulate, or analyze the auditory parts of a spoken language. And almost every single sample strategy for adults in this section is an example of wordplay. So one example is ask the child, what other words start with the t sound like Tommy? And we're going to talk through and give lots more examples as we go on to today with our time together. So as promised, we are going to break down the components of language that we play with when we do wordplay with young children. And we're going to start off by hearing from Tammy Pineda, and she is going to describe wordplay for us.
I think about wordplay as the playful moments that children experience to play around with language and to hear the language in the world around them. And it can be such a fun experience and a natural experience for educators to notice the language and highlight language. For example, if I were to be talking to a child and say, today we're going to learn about how to make a cake. Oh, I just heard two rhyming words. Make a cake. Make cake. Those two words rhyme. That's crazy. All right. So, and then you can move on into how to make a cake. But just wordplay can be such a natural thing that we can intentionally uplift in our daily life as we're talking, singing, playing with our children. In order for children to understand that there are sounds in a word, they have to be exposed to a lot of words. And wordplay can be a really fun way to create experiences to focus on sounds in a word. And in order to do this, children need to be exposed to a lot of words. And so not only is it important and critical that we talk, and read, and sing to our children, but really just to be the narrator of the world around them. Talk about everything you see, talk about everything they're doing, just use words all day, every day. And that is an important part of helping a child strengthen their early literacy skills. And by the way, I want to say that even the youngest children, even babies, are being exposed to language by the words that you use with them. So when you're changing their diaper and you're talking about everything that you're doing while you're changing your diaper, that also is really important to begin the journey of wordplay and to expose them to the world, the words around them, and the world around them.
So, as Tammy mentioned, word play is play with the sounds and rhythm of language. And it's essential for children's phonological awareness or the ability to identify the individual components that make up words in a spoken language. And those being words, syllables, onset rhymes, and phonemes. And we're going to define each of these momentarily. But before we do that, I want us all to think about how most adult individuals who are fluent in a language, we can clearly identify each of these components within the language that we speak. It's something that is just automatic in our brains. Now I want you to think about a time you heard someone speaking in a language you do not understand. Maybe you listened to a song in a different language, or you watched a foreign language film. And in those instances, I would guess that you would have trouble identifying these components that we're going to talk about momentarily. Just beginning with hearing the individual words. Depending on the language and your familiarity with it, maybe it just sounded like one continuous flow of sound. And this is how spoken language sounds to infants. Essentially one continuous flow of sound. And then over time, as young children acquire language, they begin to pick up and differentiate and manipulate all of these different components that we're going to talk about today. The first being words. We all know what words are. They can be described as individual units of a language. Flower, baby, cat, plate. And a language has many, many words. We could also include compound words in between words and syllables, essentially just taking two words and smushing them together, like basketball or fire truck in Spanish, telaraña or bocacaya. So that could really go in between words and syllables. A word can then be broken down, like I mentioned, into syllables, which are individual units of a word. Flower, baby. In Spanish, bebé, plato. And now we're going to see an example of playing with syllables with children and having children blend syllables together to create a word. And before I start this, I want to recognize that this is an educator in a room with like 4 or 5-year-old children, and they're all sitting at a carpet. And this is probably not this is not what it's going to look like in your program. This could potentially be a transition game that you play with or something that you do at mealtime with your preschoolers. So just wanted to recognize that before we started.
Now we're going to take the parts of the words and put them together to make one whole word. Ready? Pencil.
Pencil, pencil.
Mother.
Mother, mother.
Laughter.
Laughter, laughter.
I love that I can hear the front rows. Let me hear the back rows. Flower.
Flower, flower.
Whisper it to me. Snowing. Table. Okay, say it in your voice level 2. Father.
Father, father.
Kindness.
Kindness, kindness.
Member.
Member, member.
Dinner.
Dinner, dinner.
So now we're going to further break apart syllables into what are called onset rhymes. Those are the individual components of a syllable. So each syllable can be broken into an onset, or the beginning, and a rhyme, the ending of a syllable. And it's typically separated by the vowel in that syllable. So for example, at, pu, ate. Or in Spanish, fu, or, ol. So it's breaking apart that syllable further into an onset and a rhyme. And rhyming and rhythmic songs are great ways to help children listen for those onset rhymes because we rhyme, when we rhyme, we are rhyming the last rhyme, the ending of the last syllable in a word. So songs like down by the bay where the watermelons grow, back to my home, I dare not go, for if I do, my mother would say, Did you ever see a whale with a polka dot tail? Whale, tail, whale, tail, ale, 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 down by the bay. Now, obviously, the Spanish language is going to have slightly different rhythmic songs. And here are some examples. We are going to hear Debajo de un botón momentarily from Tammy.
I was thinking about if a child care provider has multiple languages that are being learned in their program. Using funny made-up words can be fun, or songs like a ram sam sam is one of my favorite ones. So whatever language you speak, it can be really magical to make up funny words. And a ram sam sam, a ram sam sam. I love it because it's like clapping, right? The syllables. It's like feeling the individual words in your body, and it's just a totally made up word, and it's fun, and you can do it fast and slow. Ram sam sam, ram sam sam, gooly 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 ram sam sam, right? And they will be watching your mouth when you say gooly, and do it really expressively. Gooly 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 ram sam sam. And then doing it fast and slow just makes it fun. But those are some other strategies if you had languages, more than one language spoken in your program. That could be really fun. My favorite songs to practice rhyming in Spanish is called Debajo de un botón. And this is how it goes. And you can clap along, by the way. Debajo de un botón, ton, ton, que encontró Martín, tin, tin. Había un ratón, ton, ton. Ay, qué chiquitín, tin, tin. Ay, qué chiquitín, tin, tin. Era el ratón, ton, ton, que encontró Martín, tin, tin, debajo del botón, ton, ton. I really love this song because it pulls out the end sounds of the words, but also there's rhyming within the lines. So I just love that song.
And now we are down to smallest parts of language, individual phonemes, individual units of sound. And English has lots of phonemes. We have 26 letters, but we have 44 different sounds that those letters can make. To further highlight the complexity of the English language, we have 5 vowels, 6 if you count Y, and 20 different ways you can say those vowels. We have 20 different vowel phonemes. And every language is going to be different. In Spanish, for example, there are only 24 phonemes in the language and only 5 vowel phonemes. So I feel like that just highlights the complexity of a language and how every language is different. And now we're going to hear and see an example of playing with the individual units of sound in a language.
This is Dr. Peggy Symingson, and we're working on teaching phonemic awareness with puppets. Today I'm going to focus on the skill of phonemic segmentation. So this is stretching out the sounds in words like chewing gum, stretch it out. So we want to hear all the sounds in a word. So for instance, you might say a word, sun. How many sounds do we hear in the word sun? Let's say it slow. S, 3 sounds. So you can also count the sounds as well. So segmenting is stretching out every sound you hear. It might also have more letters in the word than there are sounds. An example is the word sheep. It has 5 letters, but it has 3 sounds. So you really want students to listen for the sounds. I'm going to say a word, sheep. How many sounds do you hear in the word sheep? Say it slow. Sheep. Sh, e, p. 3. Good job, Bunny. I heard 3 sounds in the word sheep. And so you want to just practice like that. So segmenting helps students to hear those sounds in the word. And again, they're not always a one-to-one correspondence. So good job, Bunny.
So you've probably noticed a pattern. All of our examples and recommendations for wordplay today, they're focused on you as an educator using your own voice. And that is because this is the most effective way to support children's emerging pre-literacy skills and language capabilities. And one of the big reasons for this is that humans move their mouths differently when we are making different sounds, so those different phonemes. And children observe this and they start differentiating those minute differences over time. So we're going to do an example together. Everyone make a T sound. T, t. The mouth is wide and flat and the tongue hits the roof of the mouth. Now make a D sound. D, d. Same mouth movement as T, and the only difference is that D is audible. D, d. We're using our vocal cords to produce sound, whereas the silent T, 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 that's just relying on the forceful breath of air that is moving through our windpipe and out and producing that sound by the way that we are moving our mouths. So now stop and think about ways that you would say other types of sounds. Shh. B, b, Children's phonological awareness and their ability to detect all of these little differences in the way we speak is going to be strengthened when they can actually see your mouth moving and hear your voice. So that is why you see on the slide here, it says your voice is best. And you may use recorded music when as a way to support wordplay with young children. And we want to recognize here today that if you're doing so, singing along to the music so that children can see your mouth is really going to enrich their phonological awareness and their ability to detect all of those little differences. And now we're going to hear from Tammy again, and she is going to give us quite a few examples of children's literature that can help support children's phonological awareness.
So there are so many great picture books that help us practice phonological awareness and play around with sounds. And I want to share some of my favorite with you. This one, Tanka Tanka Skunk Skunk, is one of my favorites. Listen to the rhythm in this book. Skunka, tanka, skunka, tanka, 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 skunk. This is Kangaroo. His name has 3 beats. Kangaroo. Can you do that? Kangaroo. And this Caterpillar, his name has 4 beats. Cat, pill, Skunka, tanka, skunka, tanka, 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 skunk. Isn't that fun? This is a really great example of how picture books can support phonological awareness. There's another book that I love that has beautiful language, Bumpity, Dunkity, Thumpity, Thump. And the illustrations are great for smaller kids who are going to be really excited to see what this little kid is doing, but also the language is magical. Wagon on gravel goes bumpity bump. Pebbles in the pond fall dunkity dunk. Toes in the grass go thumpity thump. Bumpity dunkity thumpity thump. It's so magical. I think little kids are really gonna like books that have clear illustrations and rhythmic, musical kinds of text. Of course, we know that phonological awareness can happen when kids practice the sounds that animals make. And one of my favorite books is The Seals on the Bus. Do you know this one? And it's fun because they already might maybe know this song. And so having a little twist on a familiar song is pretty fun. And I sing this book, of course. The seals on the bus go erp, 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 erp. The seals on the bus go erp, erp, erp all around the town. And you can imagine all the fun animal sounds that you get to make. There's the tiger, and I won't ruin it for you, but there's some pretty crazy animals on the bus, and they all make really great sounds that are fun for kids to play around with. The library also has a lot of books that are thinking about and talking about in a fun way the beginning and ends of words. This book is one of my favorites. It's hilarious. It's called Pickin'. And as you go through, you can read the word calf, and then you can turn the page and say cam. Oh, it's a cam. That's hilarious. What if you did... Oh, now it's a Kim. It really is a kitten, but now it's a Keese. So books like this are really fun to share with kids, and they're pretty funny. I was thinking about some of our other really intentional books that we have in our collection that support early literacy and the sound of language. This book, we have a few of these in our collection, Pig Wig. It's a flip book, and it's pretty fun. Pig, jig. And the way that the pages are, it kind of helps to point out that the end sounds of these words are the same. The ig, w, ig, d, ig. So this one can be really interesting to intentionally point out the sounds at the ends of the words. And we have lots of different kinds of books like that. We also have some books in Spanish that can be really fun. Many of them are translated books that you may know already, like Mu, Ba. And this one is Sandra Boyton. You know, we love these books. This one's in Spanish. Mu, Be, así fue. Una vaca dice mu. Una oveja dice be. Tres cerditos cantores dicen así fue. So not all books are translated perfectly for and allow for rhyming, but this one, these Sandra Boyton books, are translated pretty well and are pretty magical for kids to look at and to hear the language and to play with. Another one I'm sure everyone knows, Chica Chica Boom Boom. We have this one in Spanish and English. A le dijo a B y B le dijo a C. En el cocotero, ahí te esperaré. So everyone knows this one, yeah.
So, as we now know, wordplay supports children's ability to detect, manipulate, and analyze the auditory parts of a spoken language. So, we are going to cover just a few additional reasons why this is so critical in early childhood, particularly for children's pre-literacy skills. So, phonological awareness, or again, this ability to identify the individual components of a language, is necessary to eventually learn to read and spell. Phonological awareness when entering kindergarten is a predictor of reading and spelling acquisition. And play and awareness of different words, syllables, onset rhymes, and phonemes of a language, it supports children when they begin pairing the phonemes, the individual sounds, to letters or sounds to symbols. And it's stated as the relationship between letters and sounds, or that sound symbol correspondence. And it can get really complicated. So for example, the letter A has, in the English language, as many as 9 different sounds depending on your regional accent. And children must be able to differentiate, to hear the difference between these sounds. So we're going to focus on 3 of the 9 So A can make the short vowel sound, or ah. Children will need to hear yes as in apple, or map, or ran. Children will need to hear that it also makes the long vowel sound, as in baby and cake and play. It even makes the broad vowel sound, like in father and calm. Sometimes A even sounds like an O, as in the word ball. In Spanish, it is consistently pronounced with a short vowel sound. Ah, like in agua, aquí, hablo, nada. So I'm going to demonstrate the importance of phonological awareness as a foundational piece of being able to read and spell. So when we read, we are blending sounds together. So we've already seen an example of blending syllables together and blending the individual parts of a word together. So playing with this is going to help children practice this important skill when they're learning to read, that they're going to use when they learn to read. So they must know that sounds are associated with different letters. So say a child wants to read the word cat. They must know that C makes the K sound, A makes the A sound, and T makes the T sound. K, A, T. K, A, T. Cat. And then they have to blend it together to produce the word. In Spanish, gato. They need to know that the G makes the G sound, the A makes the A sound, the T makes the T sound, and the O makes the O sound. G, A, T, O, gato. And blend them all together. Now, it's the opposite when we spell. So when we know a word we want to write, we must think about the individual sounds in that word. And then in our brain, it's automatic for a lot of adults, but sometimes not. You have to pair it with the associated letter to correctly spell the word. So play with segmenting, stretching words out, like the example of the woman with the puppet. Stretching words out is really going to help children practice this important skill that they are going to need and use when they spell. So for example, I know I want to spell the word pan. I must stretch the word out to hear those different letters to be able to spell it successfully. I know that makes the P sound, or that is a P because it makes the P sound. Is an A. N makes the N sound. And I can successfully spell the word pan. In Spanish, say I want to spell the word casa. I have to break down the individual sounds in that word. I have to stretch it out, segment it, to be able to successfully spell casa. We're going to hear from Tammy again on how you can further support children's phonological awareness, again, which is that foundation of children's ability to learn to read and spell down the road.
It happens naturally. It doesn't have to be something that you put together a whole curriculum and go, step one, I'm going to do this today with them. It comes up naturally in our world, and that can be really fun for us as educators, but also for children to realize in the world, things happen and you notice words that rhyme or words that start with the sound of your letter. That was something I wanted to talk about, Grace, too, was when I was teaching 4K, of course, we know children love and are obsessed with the first letter of their name, right? So when they realize, oh, my name is Mateo, and it starts with and we would focus on this for weeks, and they loved it, and they were obsessed with and then we could get them to and they were motivated. They were motivated to understand that sound. That's my letter. And they would be kind of mad if someone else had their letter, right? But they were also excited to learn the first letter of all of their friends in the class, right? That's Victoria. That's Tammy. And then we could move on to the next step, which is, later pointing to my letter, and then they would find my letter in the world around them, in our classroom. It would be on books, and it would be on the wall on a poster, but they would start to understand that that symbol, that little wiggle that is a line like this and a line like that, that's Miss Tammy's letter, and it sounds like t, t, t. So I really love the internal natural motivation of a child's first name, and later you could even take advantage of their motivation for their name to think about rhyming names, or thinking about, they'll even sometimes start to notice the last sound in when they're, the end of 4K. They might even really recognize the last sound in their letter. Oh, Martin, Martin, that's like Natalie, that's her letter, so in the beginning, it'll be really that first sound, but by the end, they're going to be able to kind of pull those out and recognize it and use each other's names, because that is a huge motivator for them. I was excited to tell you that.
All right, I will pass it over to my co-presenter, Ashley, to finish us off talking about how you can do this in your programs with a mixed age group.
Thank you, Grace. Yeah, so this is really the fun part. I mean, the whole workshop has been fun, but the fun part is actually implementing and taking what you have learned and applying it into the classroom settings, whole group, mixed age group, and just making learning fun for children, incorporating wordplay in your program. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Next slide. So key strategies for differentiated learning could be scaffold learning, which is designing core activities that could be adapted for different ability levels. For example, some children can focus on syllables, that is chunks of words, while others focus on the individual sounds. Another way is using multisensory tools by incorporating materials to support kinesthetic learning, also known as tactile learning, using blocks and Play-Dohs and different manipulatives to make abstract sound concepts concrete and engaging. This is extremely helpful for all learners, no matter if they're infants up to school agers, but especially for younger children. And the next method is going to be keeping it playful. Play should be at the center of all learning. That is the best way for children to engage. You can do this by using songs and games and movement to maintain engagement. Keep instruction time short and fun, no more than 15 minutes, especially depending on the mixed age group. You don't want to lose your audience. And it just allows for them to focus on an activity and an idea at the core for the children you are engaging with. Next slide. So when we are using scaffolding learning, it is a great opportunity to, again, engage with the children to help them grasp the idea of the concept of wordplay. You can do this during transitions. You can use quick phonological awareness activities like clapping syllables in a name. So say, for instance, you are lining up to go outside and some kiddos are putting on their rain boots and their raincoats. To keep the kiddos engaged, you can clap and ask for them to, you can say a word like cat and have them clap to find the syllables. They get really excited about that. And it also cuts down on the time that you may have to wait for transition. Another way to scaffold learning is to incorporate the senses, right? So like you see here on the picture, there is a letter K printed on the paper, but then there's also another item and added to the identification of the letter sounds by asking children to place the letter K on the word printed. So you have the black K and having them make that connection. That is a different way to expose them to different colors and shapes of letters to help them make those connections through their senses of touch and see and sight. Another opportunity of scaffold learning is to bring in different materials using books and also songs. You can do things such as singing a song down by the bay or apples and bananas to explore vowel sounds. So even during reading time, you are still incorporating singing and you're focusing on specific sounds. Or you can incorporate what is called snail talk or robot talk. Snail talk is when you talk extremely slow and you stretch out a word. And robot talk is when you are incorporating, again, another form of being slow and being intentional with emphasizing on the sounds of letters. And children really get a kick out of changing up their voices, even as you as a teacher to animate and change your voice. And it helps them make that connection as they are talking slow to sound of the word, or you can do really fast, a rabbit talk, and have them talk really fast. Now that doesn't stretch out the word, but it just helps them to be able to cipher between slow sounding out words and what it sounds like to speed up a word when you put segments together. What this looks like in different age groups with an infant, you can incorporate at changing diapers. As the child is laying on the diaper changing table, you can sing a song to them, focusing on the sound, using your hands safely while holding the child and changing their diaper, of course, right? Healthy, health, safety is important. Clapping out, or you can have the children clap out as you are changing their diaper by saying their name or saying a sound, using that snail talk or their robot talk. What this looks like for toddlers and twos, while preparing to go outside, you can incorporate, again, rhyming games such as guessing a word, what rhymes with cat. And for preschoolers, these things can be done at mealtime for robot talk and incorporating that snail talk. And school agers, this can be incorporated as you are going for a walk, preparing for a snack, and having those conversations with them just to ask them after school, how was their day, and incorporating wordplay. Next slide. When using multi-sensory toys, this is another way to connect the senses. You see here on the picture, you can use slime, you can use whipped cream. I do not recommend shave cream because we all know that children are going to try to put that in their mouth. But if you use things that are made from natural resources such as slime, baking powder, and those elements, or whipped cream, if they put it in their mouth, won't harm anyone. But using slime or using whipped cream or using material that allows them to manipulate the materials to make the letter, and encouraging them to make the sound with the letter or making multiple letters and putting them together is always a great way to make that connection from a cognitive development landscape of it all. Having children to actually apply and then incorporate is really intentional. Another option is using felt material to allow children to just engage. Younger children, the idea of having them identify sounds is not something that is developmentally appropriate right away, but that letter recognition really incorporated that in the spaces where the younger children can place the letter and the other children can say their sounds. Maybe the preschoolers can say the sounds, and the kindergartners or the school age kiddos, they can put the segments together to make word letters into actual words. Next slide. And keeping it playful. Again, play should always be at the center of learning for all children. This is the best way for children to learn when they are engaged and when they have the opportunity to use their free will to learn at their own pace. In a mixed age group, sometimes it could be challenging to try to not sometimes, all the time. It can be very challenging to have all the children sit down at different age groups and try to instruct them. So this is why it's always really important to have that free play where the environment is set up for the child's learning. You'll see here where it says Next Up Learning Academy that this kiddo is playing on an artboard where there are letters, different pictures, different shapes, different colors to allow them to really make those connections and hands-on activities. Where at New Era Learning Care, the children are sitting down, but the teacher has incorporated music and movement with the sounds, with the letters, and it really just makes it playful and helps that child to make that connection from just, oh, this is play, but no, we are learning at the same pace and at the same time. Next slide. So we talked about transitions a little bit, but I really want to dig a little bit deeper into transitions because transitions are the best time for children to be exposed to so many learning opportunities that I feel that us as educators sometimes miss out on those opportunities because we're so busy trying to get them to potty train or time to change your diaper or let's wash our hands for lunch or let's get dressed to go outside. These are great opportunities to engage children during the transitions. So you have during diaper changing while the kiddo is laying on the table. You can have them clap. You can sing songs. At this age, little bitty ones are really honed in on your facial expressions. So you want to be expressive as possible when you're making sounds, when you're pronouncing on words, and just really making sure that you are using your lips and your tongues and your eyes to be expressive as they're catching those letters, those sounds, and picking up on that phonological awareness at such an early age. Another great time is during transitions, as I shared before, clapping out syllables or even having letters posted around the area where you line up to go outside and asking children to point to the letter A and then what sound does the letter A make? Scaffolding, emphasizing on letter identification as well as sound awareness. And another great opportunity is mealtime. sometimes people say like, oh, you shouldn't be talking at the dinner table or at the meal table, but that is the best time to engage children conversation. Again, safety first, making sure children chew their food properly and swallow. But at this time, you can really be focusing on those word games, wordplay, focusing on syllables, segments. And this is great because when you have a mixed age group, you may have an infant in a high chair and the toddlers and the preschoolers are at the table, but everyone is engaged, and even that itty bitty one is paying close attention to the conversations that the toddlers and the preschoolers and school agers are having at that meal time. Next slide. Sound hunt. So this is a great way to be intentional about implementing phonological awareness in the space, and everyone could be a part of this, even the crawlers. And you can make it fun for the ones who are just sitting in their chair, putting items around them that they can grasp on. But essentially, when it comes to the sound hunt activity, you as a teacher have to set up their environment. So it could be a intentional and meaningful learner environment. So this is something that you would do beforehand to kiddos. Maybe they're down for a nap or another teacher has taken them outside. And when they come in, you could just start to build on what you have already learned in those other activities to say, today we're going on a sound hunt, something like a bear hunt, where you might want to get really fancy and may want to give children magnifying glasses to walk around the space to look for different sounds. And some of this can be just natural. You don't really have to set the environment up because there are sounds all in the environment. So if there is a poster on the wall, or if we're looking for a block, you can really emphasize on, I'm looking for a block. What sound does that make? And children get really excited about it. And all children naturally are always in competition with each other. So they're going to be eager to try to find a sound before their friends. But when it comes to little kiddos, I will always, in my classroom prep, when I worked in a mixed age group, the older kids to kind of step back sometimes and not be too eager to be the winners, and allow for opportunities for the little ones to be prideful and look for sounds and really make that connection of like, oh, I do know my sounds, and even having older kiddos help younger kiddos in these sound hunt activities. Next slide. The best part of wordplay is incorporating rhymes with rhythm, music, and sounds. This is one of my favorite things. I always jokingly say, when children are around me, you can't tell me I'm not Beyonce, because I would sing a tune and they really light up. Now, when adults are around, that's a whole nother story, but singing is the best way to incorporate wordplay and sound awareness. This is one of my favorite songs that I like to suggest to other providers. It was introduced to me some time ago, but I think it's like a really good way to focus on different sounds. It's really silly and it's really engaging. Children can dance and move around while they are listening to the various sounds. And as an educator, you should always be emphasizing and get really loud when certain rhymes or certain words pop out that you want children to pay close attention to. Grace, if you can play this tune for us, please.
I know a girl named Betty who likes to eat spaghetti with meatballs and Parmesan cheese. Her little brother Eddie, he doesn't like spaghetti. He'd rather eat carrots and peas. They have a pony.
Now we can listen to this all day. It's a little catchy tune, but we're really focusing on, you want to say Betty spaghetti, right? Like, so you're, as a teacher, when this is playing, you want to get louder. That way you are emphasizing on the words that you want them to really focus in on, and then pause and ask the kids, what did she say? What was the rhyming words? Betty spaghetti. Making those connections and making it interactive. Music, sounds, rhythm could be a whole lesson for a day. We're focusing on bringing it all together with wordplay. Next, please. And of course, as always, literacy, books. This is all about wordplay. You want to incorporate books in your program. Books is a great way to scaffold learning. It's great to really set the tone for wordplay when it comes to mixed age groups or any age group. There are so many books out there that you can find to really just emphasize on rhyme time. Chicka Chicka Boom Boom is one of my favorites. When I was a kindergarten teacher, I turned my whole classroom into Chicka Chicka Boom Boom because I was really adamant about my kiddos knowing how to read before they left on to first grade, and letters phonemic awareness, all that plays a big part in the 6 skills of literacy. Another great book to focus on rhyme time is Giraffes Can't Dance, such a silly book, really colorful. The print, everything about this book really engages the children. And once you read it, I feel with Chicka Chicka Boom Boom and Giraffes Can't Dance, children will always ask you to read books like this because it's easy to remember. And for children who are not quite reading at the moment, this is something that they can just be able to recite because it's such a catchy book and easy to memorize. Next slide. When it comes to playing with blended and segmenting words in the mixed age group, working with children, is we always want to focus on blending sounds. We say sounds separately and have children blend them to say the word. And when it comes to segmented sounds, you want to have children break words into individual sounds. Use activities like jumping for each sound in a word. Again, engaging children, being active, not a sit and get, but having children stand up, having them clap their hands, having them stamp their feet, touch their nose to help them make those connections of the sound recognition. Next slide. And we all want to bring in rhythm into our spaces by using children's books. We know that books are a gateway to great education and learning. Libraries have nothing but free books, so always utilize those resources. And these are just my favorite books that I always recommend, and I used to like to use in my classroom when it came to bringing rhythm into the classroom and just allowing children to build on that wordplay and sound, whether it's blending or focusing on syllables. You have moo, ba, la, la, rhyme with me, I got the rhythm, and Ricky, the rock that just couldn't rhyme. All of these are great to read. You can also incorporate using YouTube. The Ricky, the rock that couldn't rhyme. There's a whole video to this, and there's a whole little rap kind of sort of that you can incorporate in music. Again, incorporate sound, and children learn, have a stronger chance of increasing their literacy skills when there is opportunities and foundation that builds on to making those connections and reading. Next slide.
All right, we are going to hear from Tammy. A plug for utilizing something that you've already mentioned quite a few times, Ashley, utilizing the public library for these rhythmic resources.
The public library is your thought partner. We have resources. We have so many beautiful picture books and story time programs that promote early literacy. And if you're looking for a specific theme or a specific skill that you want to strengthen in your program, please reach out to the public library as a resource.
Ashley, I'll turn it back to you if you wanted to say any closing thoughts as we wrap up.
Always use the library. That is just something I would just build up off of Tammy, and just make learning fun. If you're not fun, children, they're going to do their own thing. In a mixed age group, you have to be an actor. So do what you need to do to increase their engagement, and just make sure that you are reading to the children every day, all the time.
And I know something we talked about too, Ashley, was reading books and stories or singing songs in slightly different ways to really engage children, to keep it fun and fresh. If they have a book that they particularly like, singing it one day or saying it slightly different. I know you talked about robot talk and snail talk, where you speak robotically or you stretch out words, speak really slowly. Children love that sort of thing too, and it helps them really think about the different individual sounds and syllables and rhymes that they're hearing. Thank you, Ashley, for coming out and speaking to us about how to incorporate rich language experiences for our youngest learners. So thank you very much.
And you are so welcome, and thank you all for sharing space with me today. I'm super excited for opportunities like this.